following is a presentation of Learfield IMG College. From the Georgia Southern Sports Network, powered by Learfield IMG College.
Wings up, Eagle Nation! Touchdown, Georgia Southern!
This is Inside Eagle Nation, your all-access look into Eagle athletics.
Taking a look through all the other action in Georgia Southern athletics this past week. A lot of road action. A lot of teams hitting the old I-16 out of town.
Getting on the Steele horse and taking us to parts north, south, west, wherever. Can't really go too much farther east.
Now let's return to the Learfield IMG College studios. Here are your hosts, Colin Lacey and Danny Reed.
That's a fact, Jack.
Welcome back into another edition of Inside Eagle Nation, a very special edition because we've got our first live guest of Inside Eagle Nation. We told you there's going to be a lot of changes throughout the summer. We've changed location, we've changed kind of the setup, and now we've got a live guest. Welcome in the...
I didn't know I was the first.
Oh, you're the first.
Oh, great.
No pressure. No pressure at all.
No, not at all.
Zero.
Colin Lacey alongside Danny Reed with our special guest from Foundry Broadcasting, the owner, operator, and about 7 different other titles you could throw in there, Bryan Steele. Good to have you, Bryan.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, I'm used to having you guys on the, where I'm doing the interviewing and you guys are answering the questions. So
yeah, that's
a little different.
I was telling you, for as many times as you've had us on 94.9, 106.5 with East Georgia's morning show, we had to turn the tables a little bit.
Did you?
We did. We did. Had to keep you on your toes.
Could you fit all those titles on a business card, or do you just need an 8x11 you hand people?
It's a fold out.
Okay.
He's got a pamphlet.
Like a coach's play sheet.
Yes.
But a busy edition of this week's edition of Inside Eagle Nation. We'll catch up with Bryan Steele throughout the episode, get to know his story, get to know why he is so ingrained in Eagle Nation with Foundry Broadcasting and his group of stations over across town. But a couple of news notes to get to. One coming out of the Athletic Foundation. Came out last week, had a record-setting year as far as fundraising goes. $6.3 million in new pledges and outright gifts. That's 38% more of the previous record.
That's awesome.
Not the previous year, the previous record.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Also had the Eric Russell Fund, had the most donors since 2013. And of the 44 major gifts, which are $25,000 or more, 75% had never been gift givers before. And that's something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago on East Georgia's Morning Show with Ben Rodriguez, a big part of the Athletic Foundation. He, Eric Reisner, along with David Cutler.
He's in charge of the major donations.
Yep. So had him on for East Georgia's Morning Show, and he talked about a lot of people giving that had never given before.
Yes.
And that was a big part of what they wanted to do this year.
Not like they need a whole lot of help, but I was wondering if there was any way that we could give them some help. And did you see yesterday the whole deal with Kanye announcing that he was going to stay inside Mercedes-Benz to finish up his album? You didn't see any of this?
No.
Okay, neither did I.
He's living in Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
He's put out a new album.
Nice.
Apparently, they're going to accommodate him to live inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium until he finishes his album. So Frank puts out on Twitter yesterday, I can confirm that GS Eagles Voice will not be staying at Paulson Stadium until the start of the season on September the 4th.
I did see that.
I had no idea what he was talking about.
I didn't either, and I didn't really dive that too deep into it.
So Darrell Lynn had to shed some light on that, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So I'm going to announce something today. I haven't talked to anybody about this, but this is something that we're going to try.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
Yeah. Not something that the Eric Russell Funds needs, considering how much they've done already.
Uh-huh.
But in the spirit, since it was just Eric's birthday last week,
Okay.
on the 23rd, right
You
after.
need the breaking news music?
Dun, dun,
Call
dun.
Chambers real quick.
Yeah.
With the All right, here's what we're going to do.
Oh, Lord.
All right, we're going to tie in that idea of Kanye to the Eric Russell Fund. So
I'm really scared of where this is going because I have no idea what's happening.
I don't know how this is going to go either, but I'm going to try this.
Fantastic.
Up until August the 20th.
Okay.
For every...
A little less than a month.
Right. For every $1,000 that Eagle fans donate to the Eric Russell Fund, up to $3,000, I'll spend a night right here.
In the booth?
In the booth.
Huh?
Okay.
All right, say Aaron Soka gives $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to spend a night in the booth.
That week after the 20th, that week, up to 3 nights, I'll spend a night right here.
Okay. The gauntlet has been thrown down.
I'm going to put up a fundraising page a little bit later on this afternoon. Y'all can donate. We'll put up the link, and we'll get it going for the next 3.5 weeks or so. But
do Reasoner and Ben and all them know about this?
They have been consulted. They are on board with it. Because I think they just want to see if somebody could make it up here for a night.
That sounds like a Facebook Live waiting to happen.
Well, I figured we could tie a Facebook Live in. I figured
Cam.
We could explore different parts of this press box that even we don't know.
You don't want to do that.
Okay, we'll put that on the back burner. But yeah, we're gonna see if Eagle Nation can put up for the Eric Russell Fund. I'll put up with Paulson for at least one night, up to 3 nights that week after we finish up on the 20th. So there's your breaking announcement. Don't know what it's going to look like. Don't know what ultimately it'll help the Eric Russell Fund bring in, but in that spirit, since Frank got the creative juices going last night, I'm not wearing that red suit, so that's out the window. I'm not wearing what he was wearing.
What, the Kanye suit?
Yeah, I can't do that.
We could find you another Kanye suit.
For a couple different reasons, I can't wear that.
You know, my daughter was a big fan of Rainbow Bright, so I have a Rainbow Bright sleeping bag.
That's fantastic.
Let me put it this way. I would rather wear that than that red suit that Conway was wearing.
I think the Rainbow Bright sleeping bag would be perfect.
In fact, hey, I'd even be. I mean, we've got the TV in here, so I've kind of got some orientation, and I don't think the ops people would like me sleeping on the table.
No.
But
and you've got a mini fridge, so
yeah,
you're good to go.
We do have a question coming in.
All right.
Will Uber Eats bring you barbecue?
Are we just restricting it to barbecue?
I'm asking the question.
I'm guessing if I give them, I don't know if I can give out the code to the gate down low.
No.
that could get interesting.
Yeah, that would be
You can meet him at the gate.
I'll bring some peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
You do it.
And some orange slices.
You know, there's a lot of things that I thought we could cover on this week's edition of Inside Eagle Nation, but that one just sent me into left field.
So, link up going on later on this afternoon to donate to the Eric Russell Fund. Every grand towards this, I'll spend one night up to $3,000 up to 3 nights.
So be one of the first 3 if you want credit for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody actually wants to pony up 1,000 or the whole 3,000 just for that, then I may need to talk to that person about other things. But
other investment opportunities.
I mean, we need a new electronics board. We can get a Winnebago. We can take us to road trips.
I've always said we needed a bus with all of our heads on the side of it,
Yeah.
like SEC on CBS used to have.
well, if it really blows up, we'll take the 3,000, put it there. We'll take the rest. We'll put it towards a bus.
All right. There that is.
There that is.
Dropping a bombshell early in Inside Eagle Nation.
Why are you limiting it to 3 nights?
He has a bad back.
Okay.
I have no idea.
This is more of a trial and error kind of deal.
Okay.
It's going to be probably more error than trial, but I definitely want to see what this looks like. And we got 3.5 weeks, so
Okay.
now it's up to you guys.
I was just curious.
We had one more bullet point on the record-setting fundraising year, but forget it now.
Yeah, we're about to blow that away with the Danny Fund here.
Oh, Lord.
I thought maybe we could tie Frank into it somehow, but he's got some things to do. He's covering all kinds of high school football.
Yeah, Frank wouldn't
now.
be here till like 1 o'clock in the morning after getting off air at WJCL. And
Yeah.
Anyway.
There you go.
Major Gifts had the biggest year ever with over 4 million raids, so that's a lot of nights in the Paulson press box.
A lot of credit to Ben, to Eric, the entire staff over at the Athletic Foundation. We know the rebranding of the Eagle Fund to the Eric Russell Fund happened a little bit more than a year ago. And to be able to boast those numbers while we're still trying to negotiate the end of the pandemic speaks to just how good those people are and how much better it's going to be now that we're at least approaching a sense of normalcy, I guess.
And this is like the first real fundraiser of the Jared Benko era. So he's really gotten off to a good start.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
A couple other news notes to get to before we dive into the story of Bryan Steele, the owner of Foundry Broadcasting, our flagship 94.9, the Eagle. But 2 new hires. You've got A.J. Battisto over for baseball, becoming the pitching coach after B.J. Green left to go take the associate head coaching job at UAB under Casey Dunn. Really, really want to congratulate B.J. getting back to his hometown, getting back to one of his best friends in Casey Dunn, but also a former Eagle coming back to be the pitching coach. He's been at the pitching coach over at UNO for a couple of years now.
Yeah, for BJ, working with him the last 6 years, really enjoyed getting to know him, his family, just how good he was with that pitching staff. Georgia Southern last year had its best pitching performance since 2014. They set their highest strikeout total in nearly 20 years, almost getting to the top of the conference, been so close for a number of years. And for BJ, you get a chance to work with a friend like Casey Dunn, getting a chance to get back to where he grew up. And it's also a chance to help rebuild a UAB program that we saw this year, and they were in an interim phase with Perry Roth taking over for the 2020 season. But now him and Casey, after Casey spent nearly 2 decades doing extremely well at Sanford, going to miss BJ. But we go from BJ to AJ to run the pitching staff, somebody who was 12-0 here from 05 through 07. That would have been when Ryan Chambers was just beginning as the voice of Georgia Southern baseball. In addition to the University of New Orleans, he had spent time at North Carolina Central, and a Georgia Southern man, which I think was really important to Coach Hennon.
Also had one other coach named to a staff over for the swimming and diving, had the diving coach named as Debbie Clevenger. She has worked with a couple of different Olympic coaches in the spirit of the Olympics going on now. But good to have her join Amanda Caldwell's staff over for swimming and diving.
Did you see the picture that was circulating at the end of last week with Ert carrying the Olympic torch?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I talked to Roger about that.
I did see that one.
Okay. This is sort of an abridged, really short version of Eagle Tales. We're going to get back to Roger once football season gets here. But he said there's no way to deny this, but there's no way to confirm it. While Irk was carrying the torch for the limited amount of time he added back in '96 when the games were in Atlanta, apparently he lit his cigar with the Olympic torch.
That's a very
There's no way to
do.
there is no way to prove it, but there is no way to not prove it.
Oh, that's awesome.
That would be right in keeping with Irk's personality, no doubt about it.
Wow.
We're throwing bombs.
Yeah,
today.
we are. We're just letting it fly. One other personnel note to get to: Alan Beck for Georgia Southern baseball had been the assistant head coach for hitting for Georgia Southern baseball. He has been promoted to the associate head coach for Eagle baseball under head coach Rodney Hennon.
Someone who got here in 2016, coming off. Well, I guess we could say the last 2 full seasons have been the 2 best offensive seasons since the Southern Conference championship team in 2014. Somebody that goes off the Western Carolina tree. He was a former Southern Conference Player of the Year at Western back in 2003. Oh, very, very fitting. I'm not going to say it's overdue, just because it's just we don't recollect how long Alan has been here because, it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
Because we see him every day. We have such a great relationship with those guys. But I'm really happy that he gets a chance to be in a leadership position.
That's this week's news and notes in Georgia Southern athletics. And now we turn to our summer check-in, our first live guest in Bryan Steele. Again, the owner of Foundry Broadcasting has the 106.5 The Eagle, which the East Georgia Morning Show is on, along with 94.9, which is the flagship for Georgia Southern athletics. But you've been a part of radio for a long time in your life.
Me and Marconi go way back.
I turned the first knob.
But when did radio and getting into broadcasting really be something that you wanted to do?
Oh, my. Well, I have to say I was born into it. Literally. My dad owned a little AM radio station in Hinesville.
Yep.
And when I was 13, I started working weekends over there. And, and basically haven't stopped. I went into television for a little while, but it was like 25 years. And then got back into radio. So it hit at an early age. It was just, I got to tell you, I wanted to be on the technical side of it. We had a chief engineer. His name was Carol Baker. And I followed that guy around like a puppy. I mean, I was 13 years old, and I wanted to learn what made all this stuff work. So I followed him around like a puppy and watched everything he did. When Carol was in town working on the station, I was right there at his right hip, So I've been fascinated by the technology of it since that time. And, of course, the fact that I think broadcasting, and we don't talk about broadcasting being what it is, but it is broadcasting. We're out to serve a large audience, and we do part of that by being narrow on our formats, relatively narrow, that's why we have 4 radio stations. We have a talk radio station for, generally speaking, older male audience. We have an adult contemporary station, Eagle 94.9, the flagship station for Eagle Nation. We have a country station, 106.5 The Borough, and we have a top 40 station, hashtag 99.7. So we're trying to be broadcasters. And part of that responsibility, and this is another thing that fascinates me about the business, is that when disaster hits, we're the place that people go to make sure they have up-to-date information, and that's a heavy responsibility. We make sure that we are there for people. So it's almost like when everybody's evacuating, we're hunkering down. We're putting in sandbags and hunkering down while everybody else is leaving town. So I've just always loved the business, even television or radio.
With the advent of internet, streaming radio, and all that, you can get what we do anywhere now.
Yeah.
But the one thing that is so important about radio, it's local. It emphasizes local. What is going on here? Because the people that live here, if they hear it, they can feel like it's impacting them.
Well, and that's why we started East Georgia's Morning Show. Is I wanted a place where we could have local people come on the show. We try to have a local guest, like you guys come on every Thursday. We try to have a local guest every day between 8 and 9 o'clock. And we do it between 8 and 9 because that's peak drive time. That's when people are going to work. And we want the community to be part of the station, and that makes the station part of the community. Yeah. And that's something you're not going to get on the streaming services. Yeah. Pandora is not going to have, the voice of Eagle Nation on there, or the mayor of Statesboro, or the, county commission chairman, or, the girls 12 and under soccer rec league soccer team on there. It's just not going to happen. So I wanted it to be about local, and Statesboro is really an ideal sized town to do what we're doing here. If you're in Atlanta, nobody cares about the rec league girls 12 and under soccer team, because it's a city of so many million people that only a very small percentage know whose child that is. But in a town like Statesboro, a lot of people are going to know that Susie is Darren and Jennifer's daughter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's that's part of being part of the community. So.
And I know that was one of the big things that you wanted to focus on when you bought the Foundry Broadcasting and brought the stations, is being able to tap into that local market, because Statesboro didn't really have it, because you don't really have a morning show especially dedicated to what local is.
Yeah, and the stations at the time I bought them were programmed remotely. That was all computerized, not even local voice tracks, and I'm talking inside baseball now, but most radio stations during the non-prime hours are voice tracked, and that is that the stuff that goes between the songs is recorded earlier and dropped in, and so they can do several radio stations. If you listen to an iHeart or a Cumulus station, the guy that's doing middays is probably in Texas somewhere and recording that, and he's doing it for 12 stations. Yeah. So, we wanted something that was going to be local. We wanted to appeal to the local people by having the local people on the station.
And I know a big thing that a lot of people really like, especially about East Georgia's Morning Show, you've got yourself, you've got Travis, you've got Jonathan. And I love the mix of those three. You've got Jonathan with the dry humor, Travis just going on what he wants, and then
Travis is going out in left field somewhere, and I know he's watching.
And you're just trying to keep the train on the tracks.
Yes,
I love that dynamic, and I know it's something that you're really proud of.
Well, it's actually something I strove for. I wanted to have a mix of ages, a mix of demographics. Ideally, the next person we add to the show will be female and probably somewhere in between my age and Travis's age, so that we can get that perspective in there as well. But I wanted something, there are times when we're talking about celebrity birthdays, for instance, and I'll mention Hank Aaron, and he'll go, okay, he'll have a blank look on his face, like, who is? Yeah, really, Hank Aaron, and I'll have to explain to him who Hank Aaron is, and then he'll have some YouTube person come on and say, oh yeah, he does the video game thing, and I'm like, really? That's a celebrity in your mind. So
bridging two gaps.
Yeah. So, but that's something I wanted is to have a diversity of input. So it's I think it's worked out really well.
from your standpoint, what does this relationship with Georgia Southern mean?
That is probably one of the most important things we do in my mind. I mean, Georgia Southern is the biggest employer in the area, without a doubt. And so it has just a huge, in fact, I want to say it's like $1 billion economic impact. So we wanted to be part of that, ideally part of the $1 billion, but that's not going to happen.
Have you seen any of that?
Some of it, not a lot.
But, this is probably the most important thing going on in the community. And one of the things I love about Statesboro is it is a community. I mean, I live in Hinesville, which is about the same size town, but it's completely different. The dynamic's completely different because it's a military town. So most of the people in that town came from somewhere else. They're going to be there for 3 years and then leave. And you have some people who retire there, but they aren't from there. They didn't go to high school with me or with anybody else in that area. And the dynamic here in this area is that, people went to high school together. They've known each other since kindergarten. Their children go to school together. Yeah. They've been in Sunday school together since they were 12, And so this is a more community spirit. And the neat thing about this stadium is a lot of the people here in the town helped build this stadium. Yeah, either helped pay for it or actually laid some of the bricks or whatever that were involved in it, or drove a bulldozer to clear the land or whatever. So there's a lot of local ownership in this college. And so to not be part of the college would just be ridiculous.
And I know one of the things when we started talking about you guys becoming the flagship for Georgia Southern Athletics was making it not just something transactional, but making it a partnership. And that's something that I know I love being able to be a part of, not just the Georgia Southern Sports Network, but the partnership that we have with you guys.
Yeah, and I think that is awesome. I mean, you guys actually came to us about that, which I'm thankful for. But to have that partnership where you guys come on every Thursday and you often will bring a coach or somebody from the administration. We've had obviously Jared Minko's been on a couple of times. We've had Dr. Marrero on. So just to and what goes on here is so important to the people in our listening audience that to have that partnership that we have with Georgia Southern and with you guys is extremely important. Like I said, there's a lot of ownership in Statesboro of this college. So to have that partnership is just an awesome thing.
And there's stations across the country that have the local flair. They talk about local things, but one of the things that I know is really important to you guys is getting out in the community. I know the last year you haven't really been able to get out and do remote broadcasts, but being able to be a part of something like Clayton Hackle, going to his concerts. Yeah. And I know he's somebody that is near and dear to you guys' heart and a real partnership there. But being able to get out in the community and be a part of it.
Yeah, we, Clayton was foolish enough to let us introduce his music video at a concert he had about a year ago. And so we got up on stage and did that. But, being part of the local community is what the stations are all about. And again, if we're part of the community and the community's part of us, we are doing our job really well.
Take us back to when you decided that you wanted to own this group of stations. What was it that kind of drew it to you and really being a part of what it is?
Well, the first thing, I hate to say this, but the first thing that attracted me to these stations in particular was that I could buy them cheap. But the reason I could buy them cheap is they were so poorly run before. You've watched Fixer Upper on TV. They take this, seriously, they take this dump of a house, they buy it for real cheap, and then they fix it up and where it's worth something when they get finished with it. So that was the first thing that attracted me, is I could make a real difference at these stations. They were so poorly run that I could build them up into something that Statesboro could be proud of. So that was the first thing that attracted me to them. And secondly, it is the Statesboro community. It is a strong community. And in my experience in local radio, in the small towns, the smaller the town, the more important the radio stations are. You go to Atlanta and, you've got 30, 40 choices there to choose from. And whether or not they talk about local stuff, again, doesn't matter because they don't know the girls' soccer coach at Georgia Tech or at Georgia State. It doesn't matter to them. But here it matters. So the sense of community here in Statesboro was a big attraction for me.
We first got together, we talked about the early days of WNS, of MCD, the roots of our network, and with Dave Nitz, with Nate Hirsch, and somebody that you worked with, and Tommy Palmer, who helped out with Georgia Southern basketball in those early days.
Yeah, well, and Tommy was actually supposed to be in the chair that I'm sitting in the morning show. When I was putting the stations together, Tommy was an integral part of my planning, was to have him doing the morning show instead of what I'm doing, because he is a local legend. I mean, everybody knows who Tommy Palmer is, and again, to have the dynamic with the old guy who's been in radio forever, and then the younger guy like Travis, that was the dynamic I was shooting for. I never intended to be on the morning show. I mean, I don't think that my strength is behind the microphone. My strength is in administration and selling and all that. But somebody had to do it, so I had to step in and do it.
You think it's more powerful, though, to know that when people come in and talk to you that you're the one responsible for everything that's going on? You are literally the horse's mouth?
Yeah, I think it does make a difference to the guests that come in, if be it the mayor or Roy Thompson, the chairman of the county commission, to know that they're talking with the guy who can actually execute what it is that they want executed, I don't have to talk to management about it, because I am management.
You're it.
Yes, there is no other management except my wife. If I'm doing something big, I talk to her about it before I do anything. But other than that, I am management. I am where the buck stops.
We've talked about the relationships that you really glean on, but a big part of it is your staff. We've talked about Travis. We've talked about Jonathan. You've got Madeline, your wife, as well. Yeah. Talk about what your staff does and kind of introduce them to Eagle Nation and how much of an integral part they are to what you guys do.
Well, we're a small staff. I mean, we're still, it's fixer-upper. This is going to be a multi-year project getting it where we want it to be, and part of that is building up the cash flow. Since the stations were so poorly run before, they didn't have a lot of income. So I have to put one step in front of the other and go one step at a time. So Travis was my first hire because I knew he could do two different roles. He had been to college to do the on-air thing. He had done play-by-play work at the college level. So I wanted to have him on. I knew he could do Statesboro High football, for instance, which was one of the first things that I secured the rights to because we already had the Georgia Southern rights. But I wanted to do Statesboro High football, and so Travis having that experience. And also Travis came out of a college program where they taught advertising sales, and that and he liked it. So that's finding somebody who enjoys doing sales, especially at his age, was a difficult thing. So he was the first person I hired. Jonathan is my wife's cousin.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Well, it's like second cousin. His grandfather and Lee's grandfather were brothers, so I think that makes him second cousin or something like that. But
he's some kind of cousin.
But he's a student here at Georgia Southern, and so we made him, an intern for the morning show because he wants to get into, radio, television, movies. If ideally he wants to be a film director, but that's where
I could see that.
Yeah, that's where his ambition lies. Well, you saw the hype video we did for the wooden basketball thing.
I'm not gonna say how that ended up.
But Jonathan put that together because I just thought it would be funny to do something like that.
That was good.
But so he came on as an intern just to get some more experience and to find out what the business is like. Oftentimes you go to college, you say, I want to be a chemical engineer. And then you go into chemical engineering and you've committed, 3 years to it, and you decide, wow, I don't really like chemical engineering. So, you have to be exposed to it to really make an informed decision on whether or not that's what you want to do. So I gave him the opportunity to come on and be part of the morning show. And he also is helping out with the high school football broadcast. So that's, that's something he does. And then Madeline, our latest person, I had worked with her for a couple of years at a different radio group, and she's just a dynamic person. She, if you don't know Madeline yet, you will. I mean, that's just the way Madeline is. If she's in a crowd of people, she will be the loudest one, and she will have met half the people in the room, no matter how many people are in the room.
That would line up.
Yeah, before it's over. And so
she will not forget your name. Or I remember we went to lunch one day.
Yeah.
And we were sitting across the restaurant from somebody. She goes, "They were my teacher in like second grade. They don't remember me, but they're about to."
And she, she's called on a bunch of people, and it turns out that so-and-so's son is married to, so-and-so that's her cousin or whatever, so she has a lot of connections that she's still discovering, and so that helps her find people. There's I don't know if I'm going to tell this story anyhow.
Go for it. It's a podcast. You can tell anything.
Yeah, Whitfield Signs, Josh Whitfield, his grandmother is named Madeline, and it turns out that Madeline is named after his grandmother, because Madeline's father and Josh's grandmother dated when back in the day, and when they were like high school age. So when Madeline's father had a child, he named her Madeline after Josh's grandmother. So surprise, Josh Whitfield, surprise.
Him and I always talk 6 degrees in baseball, but there's 6 degrees in Southeast Georgia.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
I hope it's okay that I let that story out, because it's out there now.
Yeah. We've talked about all the stuff you guys do, whether it be high school football. You've got Clayton Hackle coming in. I know you're a big proponent of having live music in.
Yeah, Drew Wiggins also. He's local right here in Statesboro.
But of everything that you guys have been able to do, whether it be East Georgia's morning show, the different broadcasts that you guys do, what are you most proud of that you kind of sit back and say, that was pretty cool?
Oh, that's a good question. You like when you do something that you can see the effect of it. And there are times that you feel like, okay, I'm doing this. I know people are listening, but you don't feel like it's actually having any impact. And then you stumble across something, you said, oh, yeah, I went and got a COVID vaccine because I heard you guys talk about it on the radio. And so when you have something like that happen, that really gets to you. And I've got to say, in the short time that I've been running these stations, it's been about 3 years now, I've gotten the most community feedback from the stuff we do on the morning show than any other place I've worked. And I've worked at some major radio groups in Savannah. I've worked in television stations in Savannah, but I get more community feedback out of the stuff we do here than I've gotten anywhere. And that, to me, that's what I'm proudest of, is that we are really becoming part of the community, and vice versa. The community is becoming part of the radio stations.
That's really cool.
Travis says interviewing Congressman Doug Collins was awesome.
Oh, that's true. He was an interesting guy for sure. And the neat thing, I tell you, that's a neat thing, is he contacted us. He had heard about what we were doing on the morning show, and of course he was running for U.S. Senate. Sure. And he contacted us and wanted to be on the morning show. And I think we are making some impact somewhere. They have heard about us in Washington.
The word is out.
Yeah, and Doug Collins has heard of us and wants to be on our morning show. So I just think that was a pretty neat thing to have him come on. And I tell you, one of the other things that had a lot of impact on me, and Travis will agree, I know, is that Tommy Palmer passed away. He had lung cancer, and the interview we did with him, he is the most humble person. And I'm sorry, I'm choking up a little bit. Before he passed away, he apologized to me that he wasn't going to be able to do the morning show. And for him to do that, he was afraid of disappointing me. Yeah. And, with all that he had going on, that just had a lot of impact on me.
Yeah. He was one of the best. Got to meet him a couple of times whenever I first got here. And he was definitely somebody special.
Friday nights during high school football.
Oh, yeah.
That voice is unmistakable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had a great voice.
Yeah.
Just an awesome voice. And can you imagine, compared to this voice, the listeners to East Georgia's morning show would be a completely different experience with a much better voice on there if Tommy were able to do the show.
All right, we're kind of wrapping this up, and what we do at the end, it's called You Pick.
Okay.
And it's not you.
Oh.
Somebody listening picks.
Oh, okay.
And somebody picks what we have to talk about in the last few minutes.
So for the last
okay.
10, 15 minutes, somebody listening or watching has to pick what we talk about. And it can be anything.
Well, that's scary.
These have been interesting since we started doing this.
We had one that just random questions like, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Actually, there was a study done.
No.
I get, because I do the morning show, I get a lot of random facts that come across that we use on the morning show. And yes, according to surveys, a hot dog is a sandwich. So there you go.
Yeah.
I think they're wrong.
Well, you're in the minority, apparently.
Well, I've probably been in the minority of a lot of decisions. But no, this week I had one of my friends that I used to work with, Charlie. He wants to do this week's You Pick.
Okay.
And being with three people that are in radio, have been in radio, everybody in radio has radio horror stories where something just went completely off the rails.
Oh, wow.
And so he wants our radio horror stories. He's experienced a couple of them doing summer baseball.
Wow.
Start with you, Daniel. Well, and maybe yours hasn't happened because you'll be spending the night in the booth. But
yours is yet to come.
There could be an addendum to that, but I mean, I did years worth of minor league baseball where if you're on the road, sometimes the phone line works, sometimes it doesn't. We had this isn't necessarily one that happened to mess up the broadcast because there's, I'm sure, more than I could pick from there. But in Augusta, 2010, Lake Olmsted Stadium, we went there. This was either April or May, and we're probably fifth or sixth inning. Sprinklers go off in the middle of the game. Because usually those are on a timer, and they don't go off until way late in the evening. That way everybody's gone. Field gets taken care of when nobody's there. Come back. It's in good shape. So you see the groundskeeper just sprinting from the first base dugout all the way around home plate because everything's way over here on the third base side. So he sprint all the way around. And the umpires just look at him. There's only two umpires. We go back in August. It happened again. Twice in the same year. Usually you don't see that ever, but to happen twice in the same year at the same ballpark, he did the same thing. His first base dugout, and you could just see, come on. Sprint all around home plate, all the way to third base. There was a couple times that the power went out at places, and there's nothing you can do about it. We've had faulty connections, places where we thought
Michigan.
Yeah, we thought we'd be in a better position, but for whatever reason, you just have to make it work. But in terms of something that made the broadcast unique, those would be up there.
When I worked in Brunswick, I was running the stations down there, and we had the contract to do the high school football games. The Board of Education awarded the contracts, so you had to bid on them. So we were doing Brunswick High School and Glenn Academy. And they would play each other every year. And when that happens, that stadium, I don't know if you've been in the stadium they have there in Brunswick. It's a pretty good-sized stadium, and it is packed out. Well, the broadcast that we did using a Wi-Fi hotspot. Well, because of all the phones in the stadium, there wasn't enough bandwidth for us to have both stations on the air at the same time. So one would work and the other one would just be really spotty or not working at all. So what we ended up doing is taking like the Brunswick High broadcast and putting it on the Glenn Academy station so that we could have broadcast for both stations at the same time. But that was a real, I'm there at the station trying to get stuff to work because I'm not really sure why it's not working. And this is like the most important game of the year. And, and it just is crapping out because there's not enough cell signal there in the stadium to, when everybody's doing selfies and all that kind of stuff, it takes a lot of bandwidth. And so, yeah, that was a horror story for sure.
The one, and I saw whenever I said what we're going to be doing the U-Pick, I saw Aaron Soka's face light up because he knows exactly where I'm going with this one. But when we were doing the Raycom Media Camellia Bowl,
He knows the story.
Yeah, he knows where this is going to. I don't know that we've actually told this story on air, though.
We've told bits and pieces of this, but not the whole deal.
So the night before, Aaron and I had stayed back and done a basketball doubleheader, I think. And then we drove. We didn't get to Montgomery until, 3 or 4 in the morning? Central time, so I don't really know what time it was. And so we get there, and then about 8 or 9 the next morning, we get up and go to the stadium. Aaron's going to come with me, help me carry stuff in and set up. And we get there, got everything set up, and throw the headset on just to make sure everything's working. All I hear is jazz music. I'm like, there is no way on God's green earth that I'm hearing jazz music. And so I started unplugging one by one different things to see what it was that was causing the jazz music. I finally get everything unplugged. There is not anything plugged into the wall. It's just plugged into essentially dead equipment this time. I'm still hearing jazz music.
Oh, boy.
Apparently, the Camellia Bowl had given us a metal table. And apparently all of our stuff on that metal table had turned it into an antenna. And apparently within earshot of the Crampton Bowl, there's a jazz station that was coming through our headsets. A couple hours later, you walk into the booth, and it looked like our equipment cases had thrown up. Because there was stuff, it looked like a Radio Shack going out of business sale.
Yeah, at that point, I'd been here 3 years, and there was stuff on the floor I didn't know were in these boxes.
Yeah. It was all over the place. But finally, I don't remember how we
got rid of the metal table, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, we got it. I don't think it ever went away.
I thought they gave us a plastic table.
We had one.
It was one of the flimsy patio kind of deals?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So finally, it never went away. It finally just got so dim that
we could drown it out with the crowd music, and then when the pregame started, it didn't matter because we couldn't hear ourselves.
Oh, but you want to talk about a not happy human. That was me that day. Aaron was just...
Yeah, and it's funny how all these relate to remote broadcast.
Right.
And all these things happen when you're not in the station, and that's when all the crazy happens.
Aaron felt so helpless because he was just sitting back and laughing because I was getting so mad, but he was just so didn't know what to do. It was awesome. It's funny looking back on it now. It wasn't funny that day.
Never work with children, animals, or remote broadcasts. We have to add one.
Well, and things have gotten simpler because back in the day, you used to have to get a dedicated phone line put into the stadium that you would use for just that one day, and it was extremely expensive to do that, but they would test it out weeks ahead of time and all that kind of stuff and made sure it works. Now things are simple because, you use the internet, which works all the time, right? Nobody ever has internet problems.
No. The station I worked at locally in Western Maryland, they use a Marty unit, and they would have to put an antenna up on because they would do Little League Baseball, and the backstop was right next to the press box, so they would run an antenna, and the magnet would just stick on the pole and plug it in the Marty unit. I think they still use a Marty unit.
Yeah. Well, that's, if you want it to work, that Marty unit's probably the most, solid rock thing that you can use.
That is a probably 65-year-old unit they have, and it's still like a top.
Yep.
Travis said that he and Jonathan did a high school game from the stands because the officials kicked them out of the booth.
Oh,
I think we listened to that game on the way home from somewhere.
Probably did.
Yeah, that was fun. They had a picture on Facebook of them. They had our equipment there on the bleachers laid out, and it was just a neat picture. They're sitting there amongst the fans there doing the game. So that was that was.
We ought to try that here.
Yeah, I don't think so.
try that here for Gardner Webb. We'll see if they'll let us go in the stand.
Well, you can stay in section N for one of your nights here. But that'll wrap up this week's edition of Inside Eagle Nation. Bryan, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you for everything that you do for Georgia Southern.
Glad to do it. And like I said, the relationship we have going is extremely important to what I want to do with the station. So, thanks for what you guys do. Of
course.
Getting up early every Thursday to come into the stations. So I really appreciate that.
Again, 94.9 is the official flagship for Georgia Southern. You can find them on Twitter, Instagram, I hear now.
Yeah.
You can go on Facebook as well. And then East Georgia's Morning Show. Every day you'll hear from 6 to 10.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're live
goodness.
from 6 to, yeah, tell me about it. I live in, no, seriously, I live in Hinesville. It's an hour away. So I get up at 4 in the morning. That's dedication, right? I get up at 4 in the morning to go be there at 6 to do the show.
So it's about time for you to go to bed.
My day usually ends about 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
You know,
I would say
yeah.
so.
And then I go home, and this time of year I go to bed while the sun's still up. So dedication.
I guess you'd have to.
Yeah. The sun. If you're going to get 8 hours of sleep and you do the math, that puts you in bed at 8 o'clock.
You don't even get to say good night, moon.
I do see
He'll
the
see
moon
it on the way in.
Yeah, I see the moon on the way in. It's good morning moon for me.
That's the light on the road to get you in the station.
But 6 to 10 every weekday morning, you got East Georgia's Morning Show simulcast on Eagle 94.9 and 106.5 The Borough.
Yep.
But a big part of what the local flair of Statesboro and Eagle Nation is. But really appreciate you joining us. Appreciate everybody out there listening. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast however you get your podcast. And the podcast will now be uploaded on our new YouTube channel. So here in the next couple of hours, if you're watching live, but if you're listening to this on podcast, it's probably already up. But on the YouTube channel, we'll have different clips of Bryan's interview today and the full broadcast up on the YouTube channel.
Hope you find something usable.
Oh, there's plenty.
Well, we had to. Well, our trial run was some about Media Day, cutting up all the coaches' interviews.
Yeah,
So that way we could make sure it was all worth the response has been really good so far. If you can, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Georgia Southern Sports Network. All you have to do is search that, and that'll be where our exclusive content goes from this year going forward.
So for Bryan Steele and the voice of the Eagles, Danny Reed, this is Colin Lacey saying so long, everybody.
You've been listening to Inside Eagle Nation, powered by Learfield, the official podcast of Georgia Southern Athletics.